derecha! ¡Derecha!
Venga ya, coño, tanta izquierda-derecha.
Cállate ya lo que te estoy mandando.
Estoy hasta los cojones de andar pa' aquí para allá con un palo,
Esto
¿entiendes?
es importante. Recógelo ahora mismo.
Lo recoges tú. ¿Dónde voy?
Al oeste están los anarquistas. Luchamos juntos. Somos camaradas de armas para vencer y para destruir el fascismo y hacer la revolución de los campesinos y los trabajadores.
Pero esta tierra ahora nos pertenece, compañeros. Y de aquí tenemos que sacar la fuerza para seguir luchando.
El gobierno de Valencia dice que se acabaron las milicias y dice que debemos entrar a formar parte del nuevo ejército.
Well, the film was based on the conflict within the Republican side. That was the story of the film. Clearly, that is within the context of the Republic versus the fascists, and that's within the context of the rise of fascism and the ignoring that by the Western powers. But our story was about the conflict within the left, and what interested us was that political struggle for the leadership of the left, the leadership of the Republic, which of course was won by the Communist Party and the Social Democrats, and it was lost by the anarchists and the revolutionary Marxists, and that it was the evidence of that, and the evidence is very clear once you look from the evidence from the Communist Party attacking the revolutionary left. I mean, they were called in the Communist Party newspaper here, they were called Franco's fifth column, which means they were betraying the struggle to work for Franco. A lie, absolute lie. I think there were several roles that the unions played and the CNT and the anarchists played. First of all, they articulated the revolutionary program. That it was not in order to beat the fascists, there had to be a fundamental transformation of society, and that meant the working class taking power. And as I remember, the CNT and the anarchists organized collectives, started the process of expropriating, removing the employers, putting the workers in charge, and constructing a whole new society. And this was in the factories in Barcelona, in the land, so the land didn't belong to the landlords, the land belonged to the people. Now that, articulating that, leading that program was fundamentally important. Secondly, they organized militias, people's militias, who confronted the fascists directly. And that again was very important. It was a real expression of the power of the people. So they led with smaller parties, but there was as I understand it, the revolutionary project was led by the anarchists and CNT, and to a lesser extent the revolutionary Marxists. It was very exciting to shoot because we had a mixture. There were some actors who were in the film, in the militia. Some were actors. There were some local trade unionists, CNT activists from the town, the nearest town. They came, but and we filmed it very simply. I let him conduct the meeting, and there were some scripted lines for the actors, and everyone else had their improvised. The one man who said he didn't want to collectivize was an actor, because I needed a good opposition point of view. Otherwise, everybody would agree. You know, there needed to be a conflict.
Un momento, por palabras, di José.
¿Entiendes? Porque mi tierra me la trabajo yo a mi manera y me da el rendimiento que me da. Yo empecé con un trocico de tierra de nada y ahora tengo lo que tengo, pero porque yo me... Pues joder, porque yo he empezado trabajando y he estado echándole horas ahí, ¿eh? A ver si te crees que...
Un momento. Oye, respetemos las palabras. A ver, un momento, respetemos las palabras.
And there's one older guy there who was brilliant, because he came, I don't know if you remember, he talks about the revolution being like a pregnant cow. Yeah.
La revolución es como una vaca que va a parir. Si no la asistimos de seguida, se perderá la vaca, el becerro y los chicos se quedarán sin
He was a guy, when we were organising it, some of the trade unionists who were going to be in it, one of them telephoned and said, we have this older guy who is staying here, who was in the Civil War, he was in the war, but he's lived in France all his life. Can he come? He would like to come. So yes, we said, yes, please come. And anyway, he came, and he took part in the film. And then, and I arranged it, and I said to everybody, we're going to shoot the scene now, and everybody knows what they're going to do. And we had like one camera in that corner, one camera in that corner. And Jordi Dada started the meeting. And he said, we're going to discuss whether we collectivise the land or not. And it was just like an ordinary meeting. It wasn't like a film shot, and he shot like an ordinary meeting. And anyway, this old guy put his hand up and he said, wait a minute, he said, who elected you? and I said, look, it's a film, you know, he's an actor, he's just going to chair the meeting. He said, no, he said, we don't do things like that. He said, you have to be elected. So somebody proposed that Jordi Dada be the chairman, somebody seconded it, and then everybody voted that he could be the chairman, and then he was the chairman. And the old guy said, well, fine, that's okay, you can carry on now.
Cuando llegará la cosecha, es que te comerás todo el trigo que cosecharás y todas las patatas que puedas sembrar.
No es eso, yo no es eso.
Sí, pero es que necesitamos todo para poder salir en adelante en la revolución.
Clearly not, no. No, but I mean, I think when you say the role of trade unions, the CNT is ignored and forgotten. Well, the role of trade unions as a whole is ignored and forgotten because it doesn't coincide with what the ruling class now wants. The ruling class wants to diminish trade unions. The history of the trade union movement is largely ignored, and I'm sure it is in Spain. But I would argue that the trade unions bear some responsibility for this, because the trade unions themselves, the leadership, doesn't want to remember their past. Because if they did remember their past, they wouldn't make close alliances with the Social Democrat leaders in power. Yes, I think the demands are absolutely essential. And I think we have to fight for those demands, and fight for those demands of common ownership, of democratic control, accountability, of production for need and not for profit, are absolutely essential. Otherwise, never mind society, the planet will be destroyed. Because at the moment we know we are consuming the planet. So I think that what is different now is not the demands, but the objective circumstances. Because as we consume the planet through a kind of rampant capitalism, the need for the demands of common ownership, managed production, proper relationships between working people, all these demands become more urgent, not less. But the problem is, how do we organise? You know, how do we articulate those demands when the public consciousness has moved so far to the right? That's the big problem. But the necessity for trade unions, the necessity for a political program and a social program is overwhelming. All of us who worked on TIERRA Y LIBERTAD would like to send a message of good wishes to the members of the CNT. We learned a lot about the CNT when we made the film, and we had a great deal of respect for the people of that generation who fought. They were the flower of their generation. But remembering history is dangerous because it's a battleground, because the people who control the past control the present. So if you have to remember, if you remember your past, it may have lessons you don't want to hear, you know, which is that, to my opinion, the history of the CNT shows us there is no alternative but the revolutionary struggle, you know, and that's a message for all trade unionists, not just the CNT, that you can't abandon, that the need for the revolutionary struggle is greater now than ever. And it doesn't have to be fought with a gun. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about political organisation, political analysis, building cadres, building unity. Because without that, we are really in trouble. So I think the history of the CNT is the history of revolutionary struggle. Now there is no alternative really. But that. So it's a good history to remember, but it's a challenge to remember it.